UFC 316 is in the books, and I can't say I'm too surprised. Two champions walked into the octagon on Saturday night, but only one of them left like they belonged there. Julianna Peña finally met a real athlete in Kayla Harrison, and the result was as one-sided as most thought.
And she was dominant in this performance, and now it sets up the GOAT, Amanda Nunes, coming out of retirement. DC, what will that match give us?
We finally get a fight in the women's bantamweight division that really does matter.
Meanwhile, Sean O'Malley promised redemption in his rematch with Merab Dvalishvili. He said he was healthy. He said he was focused. He said this time would be different.
So you're not on the Instagram, you're not on the Snapchat.
It's been this whole year. Haven't smoked, haven't drank, haven't jerked the old turkey.
What the fuck, really?
Not once.
And it was. Just not in the way he hoped. By the way, Oliveira is fighting next pay-per-view, and it's looking kinda scary. If you want to rock this fire hoodie, check the link in the description and use code TFB for 5% off. What? How else am I supposed to show this design? Marketing 101, you feel me?
Thank you to the fighting business, absolutely amazing.
One of my favorite new channels going right now.
Julianna Peña versus Kayla Harrison. Statistically, Julianna Peña is one of the worst champions in UFC history. That's not exaggeration, just simple math. We've gone over the numbers on the deeper dive. A record of 13-6. Wait, no, hang on. It's 12-6? 11-6? I don't even know, and it seems like nobody really knows or cares for real, but what we know is that it's pretty shitty. Barely a single win over anyone still relevant in the current top 15, and a schedule that looked more like part-time work than an elite title run. One fight per year since 2020. No activity, no evolution, but she had one thing going for her. She was tough. Not technical in the least, not too powerful, not especially athletic, but she was insanely durable. Her defining quality wasn't skill, it was stubbornness.
Now, Julianna Peña is big, strong, aggressive. Now, we know she has that win over Amanda Nunes. Now, in the rematch, she kind of got smoked, she kind of got picked apart, but she did see the final bell, and she hit the canvas many times. And that just alludes further to what I'm saying about the heart, the will, and the toughness of Julianna Peña.
Peña was an awful striker, a decent enough grappler, a great self-promoter, and the kind of fighter who could convince herself that she was winning even while losing. And in the chaos of the post-Amanda Nunes era, that was enough to make her a champion in a dead division. But that wasn't going to cut it against Kayla Harrison, because Peña's only viable path to victory here wasn't strategy or skill, it was suffering. Her plan, whether she admitted it or not, was to survive, absorb the storm, hope Kayla emptied the tank, and then rally back. It was always a war of attrition she was preparing for, but in the co-main, she never made it past the first trench. Kayla Harrison didn't just dominate her, she bullied her. From the opening bell, it was clear that Kayla remembered her role as a destroyer, and as soon as they first grappled, it became clear to Peña. This was a different breed of athlete. The moment Kayla closed the distance, Peña was overwhelmed. There wasn't a single moment where she looked in control or even like she belonged in the cage with Harrison. And the finish was almost cruel in its simplicity. A Kimura, powered more by sheer physical dominance than jiu-jitsu skill. Peña knew what was coming, and she still couldn't stop it. That's how big the gap was. This wasn't an elite grappler catching a tricky sub. It was one fighter outclassing another at every level of physicality. An actual athlete handling a UFC fighter with a 50-50 record who snuck into the spotlight during a historically weak moment in the sport. And just like that, it was over. The UFC finally had something resembling a real bantamweight champion. Kayla Harrison stood in the center of the cage, belt over her shoulder, and just as the dust was settling, Amanda Nunes walked into the cage. She's back. The lioness returns.
I want to take step away a little bit, rest my mind, my soul, my body. You know what I mean? Something that excites me. I definitely come back. So now we have Kayla Harrison, and I'm back.
For once, UFC's least consistent division might have a pulse again. Kayla versus Nunes is the fight. Two women who were always destined to collide. Real athletes, real resumes, real intrigue. No more paper queens, no more one-dimensional brawlers or promotional stand-ins. Just two champions, one belt, and finally, a reason to care. Merab Dvalishvili versus Sean O'Malley 2. Sean O'Malley is truly locked in and focused for this one. That was the narrative heading into this rematch that no one wanted to see and had no business being made. He was injured in the first fight. The lights in the arena were too bright. He wasn't locked in. This rematch was going to be different. You should definitely pay for this one.
We're talking specifically and literally that the lighting in the sphere may have affected Sean in the fight. Is that accurate?
It wasn't just O'Malley or his team doing damage control. The usual UFC shields were added too, desperately trying to sell the rhetoric that Sean was going to show up as a different beast in the rematch, and Merab, who had just beaten Umar months ago, would have his hands full dealing with him.
O'Malley looked at Merab and said, this guy has more discipline than I do. He is deserving things 24/7, 365 more than I am, and I don't want that to be true.
Yeah.
And that is the genesis for why O'Malley changed his lifestyle.
Right, discipline is the word, yet everybody's latching on to weed or social media when really it's all rooted in discipline. So that's a very interesting story.
There was some truth there. I don't know about the Noche lights, but throughout fight week, Sean did look a lot different than he usually did. He ditched the colored hair, minimized the talking, and you could tell that the dude spoke from the heart. It wasn't about the belt to him. He wanted to beat the guy who beat him. It wasn't the usual sugar show spectacle. This was Sean O'Malley, the fighter, not the brand. And in the cage, for the first few minutes, that showed. His takedown defense held up early. He was patient, composed, and clearly had drilled the exact scenarios that had doomed him in the first fight. He didn't overextend. He circled intelligently and focused on the body. When he stuffed a few takedowns, for a second, you could almost buy into the idea that maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. But then Merab Dvalishvili reminded us all why different doesn't matter when you're fighting the machine. Because Merab doesn't care about storylines. He doesn't care how improved your wrestling looks in the first round. He's not worried about fight IQs, narratives, or how much the UFC wants your face on posters. He cares about pace. He cares about pressure. He cares about dragging you into his world, where there's no time to think, no room to breathe, and no way out. Halfway through the first round, Merab began closing the distance with more confidence, pressuring Sean backwards with strikes and chaining together takedowns that forced O'Malley to start reacting instead of dictating. The improved takedown defense didn't matter anymore, and the pressure began. Merab didn't just wear him down physically, he suffocated the idea that Sean ever really had a chance. It was a clean takedown in the third, total positional control, and then, just to put a stamp on it, a submission and a tap. Merab didn't have to tap him, but he did, because that's how you end a chapter. That's how you slam the door shut on stupidity.
This is the fight that people wanted to see.
And just like that, O'Malley's time at the top might be over. Maybe not forever. He's still a draw, and his fighting style will always remain interesting, but competitively, it's kind of hard to imagine him clawing his way back into this conversation anytime soon.
I mean, his wrestling is so elite, and then with that cardio, and now the improvements in the striking, and then the submissions. It's like, who's gonna beat this guy?
He got a rematch he didn't earn for a belt he already lost, and this time, there are no excuses left, no injuries or bright lights to blame, just a better man across the cage who did what he always does, break people.
All right, fellas, we're back home. Appreciate you guys. Sorry we didn't get the job done. We'll be back. Love you guys.
Merab Dvalishvili is karma in gloves. The UFC can't market him, they can't predict him, and more than anything, they can't get rid of him. And trust me, they've tried. They sent Umar Nurmagomedov at him, an undefeated badass with a legendary last name, and Merab broke him. They sent O'Malley back at him, hoping lightning would strike and the machine would finally short-circuit. But instead, the exact opposite happened. Merab, 35 years old, got better. And now we're here. The UFC is left with a champion it doesn't know what to do with. He's not flashy and he doesn't go viral, but he wins. Merab isn't here to sell pay-per-views. He's not a highlight machine, not a talk show regular, not even someone the UFC seems interested in promoting. But he's here anyway, beating everyone, ruining the plans, forcing the sport to acknowledge merit, even when the corporate machine wants marketability. He might not be the hero the UFC wanted, but right now, he's the one it deserves.
The Umar rematch is interesting, you know? And it makes your legacy even better when you ran through everybody twice, so we'll see.
That could happen before the Corey Sandhagen fight? Or do you think?
No, okay. I'm just saying.
How do you manage just the machine of Merab Dvalishvili?
Yeah, you gotta knock that guy out. When I get back, we'll see what the UFC says on time and date and stuff, and then it'll be a beautiful year for me, hopefully.
Kayla Harrison proved that athleticism, dominance, and composure still mattered, and she may have revived a dead division in the process. Julianna Peña was tough, but toughness only takes you so far when you're outclassed at every level. In the main event, Sean O'Malley showed improvement, no doubt, but improvement doesn't matter when the guy across from you is a pressure cooker in human form. Merab Dvalishvili didn't just win. He buried the hype, the narrative, and maybe even the UFC's plans in the process. UFC 316 wasn't a night for stars. It was a night for statement makers, and both made theirs loud and clear.